Welcome to the Recruiter Startup Podcast. I'm joined here today by David Jenkins. We did a previous podcast on his story to date. So if you want to find out more about him, just jump into that. But today we're going to mix it up a little bit. We're going to talk maybe some of the things that I've learned off guests on recent podcasts, his thoughts on the market, and opportunities that are out there. How are you, David?
Yeah, not too bad at all. Not too bad. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. I could use some childcare support. I suppose you fancy coming over and doing a bit of babysitting?
No. I've got plenty of that on my hands down here at the moment. So I'll leave you to yours and me to mine, I think.
All right. It's tough. Is your wife working at all, or how are you working that?
She's not. She's furloughed, so she's doing the majority of the childcare downstairs. So whilst I'm working up here, but I took yesterday off, and we had a really nice long weekend. Had a bit of balance there. So yeah, not been too bad at all. Not been too bad.
You keeping yourself in shape?
I'm probably could be doing more than I am. But I'm kind of getting out there for the odd run and trying to spend a little bit of time with kind of not just in the office thinking about work on a hour-to-hour, day-to-day basis.
What about the drink? Are you managing to keep it in check?
Yeah, I've had a few late night Zoom calls which have probably gone on a bit later than they should have done with a few friends and family back home. But that's not been too bad either. Fairly keeping the head down.
Yeah, it's tricky, hey. It's I've been trying to do like a 5K run, some press ups, and then I get the kids down, and it's like 8:00, and I'm like,
yeah.
Would I not have a glass of wine? We'll have a glass of wine.
Yeah.
So I'm having those negotiations with myself most nights, but
well. I see one of the main sports that is needing to keep themselves quite active is the WWE wrestlers over in the US. That they're deemed still an essential service in Florida. So the World Wrestling Federation is carrying.
Oh, have you? Thought you just paused on me. Yeah, you just paused on me.
No.
So David, business. How's it gone for you? What's the? You're which disciplines are you in again?
So it's sales, marketing, digital e-commerce, supply chain, and procurement, mainly within the food and drink and kind of consumer space. So the guys are doing really well out of this. The Kimberly Clarks who own Andrex, Nestle's, Pernod's, Heinz of this world, all these guys sit within our client base. So it's been a really, really interesting time for them. Obviously, their businesses are absolutely flying, but they're still experiencing some different issues, and obviously the same issues around hiring, of working from home and remotely onboarding. So there's been some good, really, really good parts and some good stories there. And then some, more traditional challenges that I'm sure every business is kind of experiencing around some of those things.
Well, did you think, when did it become really real to you?
Well, I was probably one of the fools who went to Cheltenham. So when I returned from Cheltenham on the Friday and kind of got back to the office, we'd seen a kind of a shift in the previous week. I got back, we looked at things, and we really, really knew that kind of there was going to be a March shift. So I actually spent a fair bit of that weekend looking at a lot of the data, looking at the plans, and kind of come that Monday, had a really, really good plan in place in terms of what we needed to do, where we needed to be with the kind of the people, the strategy, and a reasonable idea on how the timeline would play out. So we nearly had a kind of a 6-week plan there on a week-to-week basis as to how we thought things were likely to evolve. And it's played out reasonably similar to where we are. In fact, job volume probably isn't quite off as much as we thought it would be. But new vacancies are certainly where we thought they would be in terms of the new stuff coming through. It certainly isn't anywhere near the volumes that we were experiencing, in the late Feb, early March kind of period.
Yeah. Do you have many young people working for you?
We've got a couple of apprentices, so they are kind of 19, 20, and then we've got another couple who are kind of grads with a year experience. So and then everyone outside of that is pretty experienced, to be fair.
Okay, all right. So is it the first time they're experiencing a dip?
Yeah, very much. And even for quite a lot of the people kind of that are probably late 20s, early 30s, from a recruitment career perspective, it's their first time. I think the last time I mentioned this on the previous podcast that we did, the last time I set up a business was April 2009, just as the economy was plunging to its all-time low. So I kind of know what it was like to kind of start up in that kind of an environment. And actually, a lot of what I've spoken to with the guys is like, when we come through this period, it's going to feel like startup mode. It's going to feel like you've taken a bit of a beating, but then we need to quickly get our mindset into startup mode. And actually, that change of mind shift will hopefully see us jump quite quickly up the levels as we kind of spring out of whatever's to come. Even if it does dip back down again, I think that it's actually how we react in the kind of the June, July, August period that will kind of shape how the rest of this financial year goes for us in our financial runs from April to March.
You can make money between now and June.
Yeah, for sure.
You can do it anytime.
Yeah, I mean, we've actually had, albeit it's been business that's been residual carried over from the early parts of March. We've made good money in that kind of time, and actually, the revenue hasn't really dropped at the moment. I think it's the May probably will be the time where really we need to make sure that we're getting through as much as we possibly can. That's of all the months that I perceive where you might see the biggest dip in sales, it's going to be May.
I absolutely took a bath on sales. I had a considerable amount of pipelined deals to the USA that are paused. Maybe it'll come back. Maybe it won't. It's
okay.
Being at the bottom of the supply chain has been no fun, and it's definitely not a place where I intend to stay exclusively as things move forward.
Sure. So where's the opportunity then for you? Do you think diversification for a kind of a 1 to 10 person business is going to be absolutely key? You've been a lot of chat over the past few years about how niche specialists who really focus on one key area or a couple of key skills, they're the ones who really kind of will do well. Do you think actually a bit more diversity needs to come in at that level?
Well, I would take a step back first of all and think like what sectors are going to be where's there going to be money, and there will be money in health. There'll be money in pharmaceuticals. So what does that mean from a business perspective? It means that there'll be technology, there'll be SaaS products that'll go into that. There'll be tech recruitment business within SaaS within that area. I think there'll be all the supply chain that goes into pharmaceuticals, the medical device industry, again, the tech that goes into it, the supply chain for it, manufacturing for it. So I think the tricky thing is that a lot of people are going to identify and all go after the same thing. So why should they do business with you over all the other people that are trying to do it? So those who pivot are going to have to do it cleverly, and there's definitely an opportunity.
I think a pivot for that size of a business is more challenging, because generally I think at 1 to 10 you've probably been you've been doing one, maybe two areas particularly well. So a pivot probably means a third or maybe a half of your workforce starting to do something else in pharmaceutical will be incredibly different from what you do at the moment.
For us, it's going to be tech. So I've done that for 4 years before doing this thing. Whatever this is that I do. But even then, still, I'm hiring a senior hire to do it. So because if you move your brand too far from what you're doing to something else, then it'll get confusing, and nobody wins.
Sure.
But for us, there's a hire there, but then I have to move the sourcing team in to facilitate that hire.
Yeah.
I have to give a certain our marketing person has to support that person. So there's a massive investment to do a pivot, I think, correctly. The worst type of pivot that you could do is to just go, I'm going to spend 20% of my time doing a different discipline and 80% of my time doing this, and then nobody wins again.
Yeah. I think it's certainly an option. I think if I'm right in understanding this, you had this pivot or this new area in mind prior to CV19 and everything that was going to happen there. That was part of your strategy coming into this year. So I think that's a slightly different one than reacting out of what's happened here into a different marketplace, because you're right, lots of people will start to think about these other areas. You're doing it in an area that you've pre-planned to go into, you've hired the right person, you've got background in it yourself, so you're coming into that with some knowledge. I think there's a real danger if an SME with 5 or 6 people suddenly thinks, okay, I'm a retail recruiter today, but I'm going to start doing supply chain into pharma tomorrow because I know that there's going to be a load of vaccines coming through, and that's going to be a really big area. That is going to be a huge shift for that business, and I'm not sure, unless they were very cash rich, it would be a difficult one to transition.
Maybe you put one in though, like maybe you join the MPA or something that you can get split placements in, and you start by kicking off with like providing resumes to somebody else, but then you're branding it and getting more stuff out. And then if you get a win, then you dedicate that person, then you put somebody else in. Like you're going to have to risk it regardless. Especially if they're like if you can see conceivably you're not going to make much in the next 6 months. You may as well invest like 1 to 10. I think you can take a punt on somebody.
The only danger being now you've got the sourcing in the background, so you're kind of in a good position here. But a one-person desk in a new area where you don't have a brand presence is traditionally a very, very challenging place to be as well, particularly for that first 6-9 months. So you need a real resilient cookie to see that one through.
But
or very well networked.
What's the alternative? Like we're at a point where you're going to be furloughed. So and furloughed doesn't mean that you're coming back. It means that they hope you're coming back. So if the business isn't there to support you coming back, you're not coming back. So if for me, I would be looking at that hire and I'd be saying, you're either going to be furloughed or I'm going to invest in you in this time. Either way, there's no guarantee, but your destiny is in your own hands in this here. It's up to you.
So is your view, I'm not sure if you've spoken about this with any of your other guests, but is your view not that June to September will be a great time for hiring recruiters with potential people coming onto the marketplace? A company that's furloughed 40 recruiters can't restart them all on the 1st of June. So there's going to be some casualties there. Some people are going to be disappointed with how they've been treated during this kind of couple of month period. So there's going to be some, let's say, slightly disgruntled employees potentially over the next couple of months. Is that not a great time for you guys in your business to actually to make hay?
Not really. I think if anything, people have gone from saying, I want somebody who's billing 150 to I want a 250 person because I can get this other person by myself. So I think there's the initial piece is businesses make redundancies, loads of people hit the market, everybody's desperate. People take jobs they shouldn't have taken, people hire people they shouldn't have hired. By September, they'll all hate each other and they'll all be looking for the right job. So our job as a business is to do what it always is to keep in touch with the top 10%.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that they're getting their bonuses paid and they're current. Like, how are you going? Are they paying you? Have they treated you well? You know, oh no, they're fine. Like I've 50 people who told me they're fine, and I said, cool. Talk to me when it's bonus day. Talk to me.
Yeah.
See how this plays out. See when your mate gets hired and you're still on the bench. See how you feel then. Then you come back. So
Yeah.
I don't actually say that to them. That's going on in my head. But
Yeah. Well, there's a kind of a slightly longer game there to be played, but certainly June will be a very, very interesting month in that respect. Let's say if furlough is finished on May 31st, which I think it's probably going to have to be. So that will be interesting in terms of kind of how that plays out and the opportunity for hiring and how that presents, whether that be direct or through rec to rec for businesses and how they want to push through. I personally think at the 0 to 10 or the 1 to 10, should I say, level, I actually think that trying to take as much of the opportunity of the government funding and the funding and help as is available is to take that money and actually to obviously to fight as hard as you can to make as much as you can over the kind of the coming period. But actually, as we're coming back out of it, whether it's a V-shaped recession or U-shape or choose another letter shape, that when you see that uptick in terms of vacancies and jobs and opportunities, that actually then is a real time to try and use that money to invest in it. Because actually the money that the government are offering is relatively cheap in terms of the interest rates that are being offered if you're with the right banks and you're kind of a reasonably profitable business. So actually, I think if you've got a growth mindset and you're in the 1 to 10 category, I actually think using some of that assistance to help fuel your growth out of this is actually a really, really good opportunity at that level. If that's not your mindset, then you maybe want to play around with something just slightly different.
So what that means in real terms is if you're a 1 to 10 and your turnover isn't too high, you can get 25 grand off the bank, interest free over a 12-month period. So you should have extended your business credit cards. So what that should give you is at least 8-month to a year runway to get somebody profitable so that they can pay back that before you even have to pay it back. So it's a golden opportunity to hire a brand leader for 40K, 45K, somebody that can come in and go within the STEM industry and science, technology, that side, and they can go, right, I can do it, I can build within 6 months. You know that you can pay for it, and then as soon as they get runway, you diversify your portfolio.
Yeah. And look, you borrow that money over, let's say, a 2 or 3 year period, you'd be paying back 30 grand, or maybe $1,000 a month for the next 2.5 years. So it's not a huge amount over the grander scheme of things. You're not going to lose if it doesn't work. You're not losing your house or anything like that. So the government's protected that kind of thing. So I think at that level, I think there's a good opportunity. What do you think about the next level up? What do you think about the 10 to 50 person business?
Why don't we just go right up to the top? Let's go up to the page, and then we'll as we get into the sandwich, we'll get into it. But the Page, the Walters, the Hayes, and S3, I actually think they're going to do very well out of this. They're London listed. They've got reserves. They've had a great run. Their middle line profit is always pretty solid. Their leaders are tied into an event that's going to happen on the never. And they're too big to fail. So, and they're in the right space. So I think, if anything, they're going to pick up the amazing people who were in a massive growth trajectory on the tier down. So the real opportunity at the bottom, real opportunity at the top to take market share. And then would you break the other two into medium and high growth?
Well, do you know what? I wonder if this is the time for the Walters and the Pages of this world. I think probably some of the other bigger guys, maybe the Hayes of this world, have maybe looked at this in a bit more detail, and where Deco certainly have. In other sectors, there are accelerator funds. There are the corporates are setting aside money. The L'Oreals, the EasyJets, they're setting aside money to invest in high growth SMEs and opportunities. But in recruitment, we don't have that at all. Is the opportunity for Robert Walters or Michael Page to say, look, this is where we see the future being. We see it in, let's go back to medical devices or supply chain within that. We know that there's a great opportunity there, but it's going to take us quite a while to build out into that area. But actually, why don't we go and befriend some of the owners of the mid-size, the 10 to 50 medical devices businesses out there in the marketplace? Why don't we help them with cash flow as either kind of a loan or a loan that could convert to equity, and start to take maybe a bit more of a pragmatic approach to building our business in a slightly different way, and they can kind of benefit from the economies of scale and the expertise that we kind of have. And we can actually take, I suppose, a slightly forward thinking kind of view that they take in other sectors about how they work with the kind of the medium-sized businesses, instead of incrementally growing it bit by bit, office by office, maybe trying to think about the kind of the alternative brand piece and offering some investment into the marketplace.
Yeah, I think that's I suppose right now they're probably like that would be a clever investment. I suppose right now they're trying to protect their own assets and protect their own people. But it is tricky. I know Hayes bought Veritas for a few $100 million in the US. But from what I've heard, they've nearly furloughed everybody.
Yeah.
So it's tough. You're probably right. I'd love to know more about how venture funds in recruit. Like, is there a specific venture fund out there that deals with agency recruitment?
I mean, there's a few VCs that are interested in it, but no true accelerator. They're obviously, those businesses are, the Hayes of this world. They're probably interested in, 50 million plus transactions. So what I'm kind of saying is, look, there's a kind of an opportunity to say, let's say, take 10 million or 15 million off the balance sheet and go and find 3, 4, 5 businesses out there where they're doing well. They've been growing really, really nicely, but actually they are going to hit a bit of a bump. That won't stop them being really, really good businesses. What might stop them being really good businesses is victims of their own success. Maybe they've gone and spent a whole load of money on a big office rent in central Manhattan, or wherever it may be. These companies are the ones that might actually be in need of more financial support. They don't necessarily need to be acquired today, but actually some of the back office and support would be beneficial. But longer term, there's an opportunity there within the two businesses. And I just think maybe we talk about opportunities. Surely at the higher end of the marketplace, the CEOs and the boards of these companies are not worrying about the guy who we're going to furlough in the Bristol office. They got to be thinking a little bit more strategically, about how they look at their own market position, but where could they potentially find good opportunities in the overall marketplace? And I think if that could come in the next 3 to 6 months, or if anyone of them were thinking that way, I think they find a lot of people really, really interested to talk to them and have conversations there.
Yeah. And what about how do companies? You're a boutique size, so how do the boutiques become the next high growth in this market? Where's the opportunity lie?
Yeah, so I would use the pivot in your area or in this area. So I think a bit like you. I think a year ago we really got really comfortable with where our strategy was going. So we basically had our 3 key divisions and 3 key areas that we knew there was growth within all of those pockets. We also set up another business called Nurture Talent, which is this hybrid of kind of working in-house, kind of providing the in-house service, but that's in-house 1 or 2 days a week, whilst being in the office and managing that piece. So we were able to offer clients at all different levels a slightly different service depending on what they needed. I think for us, I'm really, really comfortable with the strategy that we're on and where we're kind of going. So actually, the plan for us is really just to forge through and to use all of those areas to get the growth through from June, July, August kind of onwards, and to invest from there once we see that uptick. But I think if you're in a space, let's say like retail store management, where another retailer is going to the wall, on nearly a week-to-week basis, you've got some really, really good recruiters in the room, and you're only one step away from being e-commerce. Those businesses, those people, the retail rhetoric, it's all going online. So, do you take 3 or 4 of your best people alongside the MD or one of the directors and say, okay, we've got 2 months now until things or 6 weeks now until things really reopen and regather pace. Yeah. Let's spend that time hitting the network, rebuilding, building a database of active candidates currently looking off all the job boards on LinkedIn, map out the clients where we know there's going to be great growth, the Boohoo's, the ASOS's, the growth brands in that marketplace. And that's where we're really, really going to go from the second last week of May or the last week of May. And that's where we're going to be. Now, that trading through that period to September till you really start to put fees on the board might take you a bit of time, but actually you've got a team of 3 or 4 now in a future-proof marketplace that's going upwards, not a stores and operations marketplace that's going back down the other way.
You've been through the investment vehicle procedure. I don't know what to call it, but you've been through it.
Yeah.
Is this the time for SMEs when we get out of this to go, or not even SMEs, sorry, for a boutique like yourself to go, okay, maybe I'll go raise some money and really go for the next bit? Or the fact that you've been through that process before, does it make you more hesitant and more like ring fence than like, I'm just going to do the floor cap?
I think it's a little more challenging for a boutique or a 10 to 50 business, because there's more people involved. There's a culture to be made. There's more of a kind of a culture there in terms of, and you're a bit more by the nature of probably having gone on for probably a couple more years, you might be a little bit more ingrained in terms of the marketplace that you're in. So I think it's not necessarily about taking investment. Obviously, it depends on your balance sheet and the position that you're in. I think it's probably for those businesses is asking the question, when I set this up, what did I want it to be? Where did I want, where did I want to go? What did I foresee the end looking like? And actually, it's to re-ask those questions, and then you need to then say, am I comfortable here? There's going to be a lot of guys, probably a few more years on them than myself or yourself, who've probably been through 2009 and kind of gone, that was horrendous. I rebuilt things. This is going to be challenging again. They might not want to do it. They might just think now is the right time to hang up the boots or, hang up the mobile phone, depending on what analogy you want to use, and think about something in a different way. So I don't think it's just about going and taking a check and cracking on. I think there is an opportunity to do that. But I think it's a reassessment of actually where you are and why you got into it and where you want to go.
Yeah, I'm very much fed up with the lifestyle business. I want something that has more complexities. And it's been fun, right? I am really, really, really happy I didn't own Scale last year or the year before. Because
I've seen the videos. You've had a great time.
Yeah, we have had a great time. Brilliant time. And traveled the world and had kids and bought a house and did all of that. But like now my thought is like there's a good 10 years ahead, I think, to come out of this. There could be could be a great run if you're in the right area. And why not have a go at it? Like
no, absolutely. And I think it's, you've got to get into the area that you're comfortable with, and whether it's a slower transition over kind of a year to 18 months, because you're of a size that, you need to put food on the table in the previous area before you kind of transition to the kind of the newer area, or you keep both going together. or you're actually kind of that little bit bigger, but you can see what where your current marketplace is going and how it's going to be affected, and actually that is going to mean you just need to change your tack. And is that what you want to do, or do you want to think about it in a different way?
What are your peers saying to you out there in the marketplace? People like you've known for years.
Yeah, so actually, it's one of the things actually I find about this period of time, and I remember it very well from 2008, 2009, is you get a lot more people reaching out and being really, really open in terms of competitors and people that you like and that you respect in the marketplace, but maybe you've lost a bit of contact with over the year, or they're old colleagues of yours. So I think that there's probably two camps. There's the one camp which their marketplace has been decimated. There's nothing that we can do about it, and they've just pretty much all taken a pragmatic approach. We'll furlough people. We'll work ourselves, and we'll start to reintegrate back. Mid late May, and we'll start to bring people back, and we'll see where we are, and we'll think about can we bring them back full time, or do they need to come back in part time? And generally, the people that I kind of know and associate ourselves with are really, really good guys. They want to do the best that they can for their people, so they're being as open as they can with the people they've got working for them, and that's their plan. The other ones, who are the ones probably who have some market that's still kind of active, a bit like ourselves. It's not as active as it was, and they were probably expecting and hoping for a really, really good year this year, because, hey, do you know what? The first 10 weeks of the year, the signs have been fantastic. And we, I see you putting your head in your hands. It's such a frustration, but we can't get away from that. It probably was going to be a fantastic year. After a couple of ones that have been a bit bumpy. So I think those guys are actually just taking a bit more of a wait and see. Let's keep as many as we possibly can. I think a bit like ourselves, they've furloughed a couple of people, but not loads of people. And actually they want to try and come into late May, early June with a reasonable pipeline, and hope for nearly a kind of a double bounce of kind of hiring through July, August, September. Then again, a bit of a pre-Christmas as well. So that's where the kind of the hope and ambition is there. I think those businesses are still quite mindful that this could be a bounce back up and then a dip back down. I think there is generally, that is the prediction of the majority of the people in camp 2 that I'm getting.
I mean, the dip back down, I don't know, like, there'll never be a dip where it stops. This is worse than a dip. We've never seen anything like that. So I don't know. I'm trying to be optimistic that when we're going, there's never been as much money printed ever as well. So the governments are propping us up. I mean, you can only kick the can for so far.
Massively. And look, but everyone understands. I think everyone is most people I think are pretty grateful for the government furlough scheme. I think most people who are, sensible and pragmatic realize that, that money is going to need to come back somehow over the next couple of years to the government, at least in some way. So there's going to be some kind of taxing and that's going to need to be looked at. But look, we are where we are. Recruiters are, some of the most pragmatic people out there in terms of how they view things. They're also incredibly resilient because it's the nature of our job day to day. If you're selling Mars bars to Tesco, those Mars bars don't change their mind. Whereas we know from a recruitment perspective, our candidates change their mind, do different things. And that those ancillary factors that affect recruiters on a day-to-day basis mean that we're just generally more agile to change. And we're more accepting of this situation, and we're adapting to it a lot quicker than people will be in other areas.
Yeah, it's funny. I try and keep a positive mindset. I'm out running, and I'm already giving my after dinner speech in my head about the right decisions that I've made in this period.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Look, it will be fascinating now in terms of actually how it plays out over the next couple of months. But I can't think that there isn't recruitment MDs up and down the country looking at this kind of with a plan over the next couple of months, but then also a plan for what the next 6 to 12 months looks like after that. And those plans need to involve something a bit different. It can't just be going back to what we were doing the same, because it's actually a reset opportunity. And actually, if people aren't making those changes, then maybe they're the ones that are going to be swallowed up a little bit with all this.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there is going to be some casualties, right?
Of course. Do you think the remote thing's going to be here to stay now?
I think that some sectors will take to it a lot more than the recruitment sector. I'll be honest, quite a few of my guys, just given the choice, they want to be back in the office. They really want to be, spending time with their colleagues and so on and so forth.
Dinner delivered, hey?
Oh, there you go. That's beautiful. Yeah, I think that it will make companies and recruitment owners a bit more relaxed about letting people do the odd day from home. So I think that will be really, really good. I think in other sectors more broadly, and definitely in our sector, there'll be a lot more confidence about letting people work from home where they didn't have those agile working practices in the past. So again, that's a really, really good thing. There's going to be a massive opportunity, surely, with video conferencing and the improvement of video conferencing. We know that certainly, show me anyone who hasn't had some kind of issue on some kind of video call that they've been doing. So I still think there's loads of innovation in that space. And the cybersecurity piece that's kind of sits around that, I'm sure there's a big opportunity in there as well. So, it doesn't take too much for even a couple of guys like us to knock our heads together for a little bit of time and come up with some idea of where there may be opportunities around. And it's not just in the obvious bits.
The other bit that we haven't touched upon is all the people who are being made redundant, they don't really have restrictive covenants anymore. And a lot of people will be set up as independents. I think that we're going to see a massive amount of that happening over the next while, where people are going to go, well, I've got 3 months, government's paying it. I'm going to go and I'm going to get my database together. I'm going to get my plan together. And then when we come out of this, I'll build a little bit and then I'll have business.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Happening. It'll be a really, really tough time to set up as a one-man band in the back bedroom. I wouldn't necessarily be that one, but at the same time, the right person who has got the right level of network and has got they're going to need to do their own sums, right? They're going to certainly be needing to cash flow themselves for a few months outside of furlough before they can start to see some money come in. And that's I think I made this argument to you when we were last speaking, that if you bring back a reasonable volume of people from furlough in June, those people make their first placement in July. The people are on a month to 3 months notice periods. So the first invoice is going out between August and October. Clients are generally on 30 to 60 day payment terms. Now that's revenue only starting to come back in between September and November. And that's if you've got the volume of business that everyone can make a placement within a 4 to 8 week cycle, and not everyone's going to be able to do it. So there is going to be, a real lag. And that's why I do think that 0 to 10 place around investing and growing, it's a lot easier to grow from that smaller base than it will be to grow from, 40 people, you furloughed 30, they come back on June 1st and you kind of grow out of it. That's a far more difficult place to grow from.
Let's catch up in September and see what has happened in the market.
We'll have the crystal ball with us and we forecast what's going to happen next year.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, David, thanks very much.
Brilliant. Cheers. Good to talk to you.